this is a matter of grave concern for all the members of the G7, both because of what it means for Ukraine, what it means for broader European security.
Russian forces are advancing in Ukraine at the fastest rate since the start of the war. According to analysts, they've taken an area about the size of Toronto in the past month. The uncertainty of what President-elect Donald Trump's leadership will mean for Ukraine has led the Biden administration to take steps to bolster U.S. aid before Inauguration Day. But will it be enough to make up for lost ground? Petro Poroshenko is the former president of Ukraine, and he joins me now. Hello, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for the invitation.
I want to ask you about the state of the Ukrainian war effort. There are reports that morale is low among some troops and that it's been difficult to meet some of the recruitment targets. From your perspective, how are things going?
It is a very difficult situation in Ukraine. You're absolutely right. On the front line. But not because I absolutely cannot accept that morale is low. No, we have a very high combat spirit. Because people fighting for their own land, family, people, country, and future. And I know exactly what's going on there because every single week I'm on the front line delivering the vital things, including the FPV drones, including the artillery trucks, including the radio electronic warfare system, many, many other things. And we definitely have not enough weapons, not enough something to fight, but we do a miracle. Since 24th of February, we stopped the second biggest army in the world. And I'm proud that me as a fifth president of Ukraine created the new armed forces, because when I was elected as a president, the Ukrainian army does not exist at all. And now we have a unique combat experience which no country in the world have. We use the new technology because the war in the year 2024 is absolutely nothing similar with the war even 2-3 years ago. And we are very much happy that Canada, including with the other member states, learn the experience from us. Ukraine suffer because every single night we have Russian missiles, Iranian missiles, North Korean missiles, attack drones who are attacking the object of the critical energy infrastructure, civilians, and with this situation, definitely we need something to change. And with this situation, we definitely need 5 important steps. Point number 1, this is the artillery shells. Point number 2, we need an air defense. Point number 3, we need a radio electronic warfare system and FPV drones. Point number 4, we need money to finance that. But I want to deliver the main message that this is not an assistance of Ukraine. This is not a help of Ukraine. This is definitely for all member states of NATO is investing in your own security and better, more effective and cheaper to stop Putin in Ukraine, because everybody should understand Putin do not stop.
There are some questions as to whether that message is punching through to at least some NATO allies. I'm thinking of President-elect Donald Trump in particular, who seems to have kind of wavered on support for Ukraine. Are you willing to negotiate an end to the Russian conflict, or is this something that has to be ended on the battlefield?
First of all, I have a very positive experience to cooperate and to work with President Trump during my presidency, because I worked with him 3 years, since year 2016 till 2019. And you cannot find out any other nation in the world who wants more peace than we are. And definitely we are ready and we are praying to stop the war. But this finish of the war, or victory of Ukraine, we should deliver. What does it mean, victory for us, Ukrainian? We have 5 red lines. First, we have no compromise on the Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukrainian identity. Second, we have no compromise on the Ukrainian territorial integrity. Third, we have no compromise on the power of Ukrainian armed forces as the only guarantee for the existence of Ukrainian state. Fourth, we have no compromise on sanction because we should cut Putin's ability to finance the war. And fifth, we should have no compromise on the Ukrainian Euro-Atlantic and European future. And with this situation, we count on Canada. Because next year, Canada would be the leader of the G7 nation. And these have a unique opportunity for us to make a significant progress in this sphere. Second, we count on Canada would be the leader of the Western world, starting from the confiscating the Russian frozen assets, because this is assets which stealing from the whole world. And this instrument, we have a unique opportunity to finance Ukraine to stop Putin.
So it sounds like there is a possibility that you're open to a negotiated end to this, as long as you don't cross those red lines, as you put it. You are willing to come to some sort of diplomatic end to this conflict. It's not necessarily something that has to be won on the battlefield. Is that what you're suggesting?
Look, we shouldn't say that Ukraine should go on negotiation with Putin. Ukraine, the object of the aggression, and Putin is a terrorist and an aggressor. And this is negotiation between Putin and the whole world. NATO, free world, G7, many other nations. This is the vital interest. And if we want to have a sustainable security situation on the European continent, to have a sustainable security situation in the world, all the nations absolutely interested to stop the war and not accept any blackmail for Putin. And I want to give you some examples. Putin want to afraid the whole world by attacking Ukraine with the intermediate ballistic intercontinental missile. But this message was not for Ukraine. We are not afraid of Putin. We know how to live under the constant bombing for almost 3 years. Our soldiers, despite of the enormous difficulties, keep the front line. And Putin paying enormous victims for that. Can you imagine that more than 700,000 Russian soldiers are liquidated and 200,000 Russian soldiers are killed? And this is definitely the tragedy of the Russian people and tragedy of the world. But even in that situation, Putin are not prepared to stop the war, because that would be a complete defeat of them. And the only way how we can push them is not to accept Russian blackmail, give us the invitation to NATO, and if the whole world wants to finish the war, it's possible to do without one single shot, but with one signature on the document for invitation Ukraine to NATO.
It seems like J.D. Vance, the incoming vice president, has been listening to some of the Russian rhetoric, maybe the blackmail, as you called it. He has kind of laid out his terms as to how he thinks this should come to an end. He says that Russia should be able to keep some of the territory they've captured in eastern Ukraine. He says that there should be some sort of demilitarized zone between Russia and Ukraine. I take it that those are intolerable proposals that J.D. Vance has put forward, that that's something that you could not live with. You wouldn't want to see Ukrainian territory permanently ceded to Russia as he's proposed.
Look, this is not a proposal of the official of the United States. And again, I have a very positive experience to work with the Trump, because first lethal weapons we Ukrainians receive during the Trump presidency. The first sanctions were introduced against Nord Stream 2, were introduced under the Trump. And I know Trump, and Trump never accepts scenario which will look like Trump defeat. Because when Trump said that I am planned to finish the war within 24 hours, I really believe this is possible. And the only instrument for that is NATO. And thus we have an experience when a country become a NATO member, having part of their territory occupied. Yes, do you know the example? Germany. When Germany became a NATO member, 1/3 of Germany were occupied. But this, with the intensive work, the territorial integrity of Germany were restored. And I have no doubt that Ukraine will keep their territorial integrity, and the unity of the whole world can bring the Putin to the end of the war.
You mentioned weapons. President Joe Biden is allowing some of those U.S.-made long-range missiles to attack Russian targets inside Russia for the first time, a new development over the last few days. There are some concerns that that could prompt a World War III, that this could escalate the conflict. Do you share those concerns, and can you justify why it's necessary for Ukraine to use those weapons in that way?
This is exactly Russian narrative. This is exactly the way of Putin blackmailing. Everything Putin can do, he has already done. But definitely it would be better if Ukraine received this permission 3 years ago for using long-range missile. But even now, when we have only 11 days, when Ukraine has an opportunity to use Storm Shadow, Scalp, ATACMS and other long-range missiles, we demonstrate to the whole world how efficient is armed forces of Ukraine. We already destroy the missile Russian arsenal. We already destroy the commanding point, including the commander of the Russian army, with the top officer of the Korean army. And nobody can understand why, for example, when we play in a football, and Ukrainian footballists with the tight hands not allowed to cross the center of the field. And now, when at least we have this decision, Putin understands that he paying a much higher price, and this is another motivation for Putin to sit at the table of negotiation to stop war. And another instrument, I give you shocking figures. Can you imagine that Russia received from North Korea and from Iran more artillery shells than Ukraine received from the whole NATO member states? Russia received more missiles from North Korea and Iran than Ukraine from all NATO member states. Why it's happened? Because North Korea and Iran switched their economy on the military rail. And some member states of NATO sitting and waiting, maybe something happen and war would be stopped. The only way how we can stop the war is to defeat the Putin. Not necessarily on the battlefield, not simplify the matter, but we should make a tailor-made pressure on Putin to stop the war, to stop finance the war. Putin understands that Russia cannot survive a continuation of the war, and recognize that that was a deadliest mistake, crime, when he launched an open aggression against Ukraine.
Let's talk about Canada. You mentioned weapons. You mentioned North Korea and Iran stepping in to help Russia. Is there more you would like to see from Canada in particular? What was your message to the Prime Minister and his cabinet as you met with him this week? What are you asking for specifically from us to help?
First of all, I know very well all Prime Minister of Canada with whom I worked. This is starting from Steve Harper, and he was the first world leader who delivered to me in the year 2014, in July, the first portion of the military support. That was the winter uniform, but we don't have it. And the second was the Tony Abbott from Australia, and on the number 3 was the Obama and Joe Biden from the United States. And with this situation, first of all, I said that we are very much appreciate Canada, Canadian people, Canadian government, Canadian Parliament. Second, now we're very much happy to receive anti-aircraft missile from Canada. This is important. Point number 3, we are very much welcome the initiative for training Ukrainian troops. This is win-win situation when Canada received the state-of-the-art experience from the most modern war, and Ukrainian soldiers has a unique training with a unique equipment. This is the brotherhood in the arms, which definitely helpful for Ukraine and helpful for Canada. But we have several projects, and I try to propose that to our Canadian partners. For example, project number 1, when the Canadian government and Canadian companies participate in the defense industry of Ukraine. First of all, it would be faster, second, it would be cheaper, and third, it would be have an immediate testing on the battlefield. And with this situation, it's at the end of the day saving money of the Canadian taxpayer and giving the new technology to Canadian producer. So we have a full package to discuss with the Canadian. We are here, have a unique atmosphere of friendship. I'm here on the purpose of the Parliamentary Assembly of NATO, and yesterday NATO Parliamentary Assembly make a historical statement. First of all, they appeal, members of parliament from the all NATO member states, appeal to the governments, please give Ukraine invitation. Point number two, that we should coordinate 0.25% of the GDP to finance Ukrainian security and Ukrainian defense, because this is investment in the peace and security. And third, we should coordinate it in continuation of the reform, to keep in the democracy, to fighting against corruption, and to build up all necessary things. And another thing, I have a meeting with the Ukrainian community here, and I was impressed with the, first of all, level and the involvement of the Ukrainian matter, level of support, and I'm happy that Ukrainians are the part of the Canadian reality, and they are so decisive to support Ukraine, and I want to use this opportunity to thank them.
All right, and let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Petro Poroshenko, former president of Ukraine. Appreciate you coming in, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.